Hello friends and potential friends. Well, as you may be able to tell, time has come to clear a little bit of space in the freezer. Now, if you've watched my gardening videos, you know my garden is small by most standards. I mean, it's probably about average for someone that lives in a city and just gardens in their backyard. But as a result of the garden size, I tend not to get large quantities of anything at any point in time. So during the growing season, I just gather things up and put them in the freezer until I'm ready to do something with them. And as a result of that, the freezer sometimes gets filled up, as it's doing right now. In fact, a few years ago, I actually bought a second chest freezer because the first one was too full. And now they're both full. So even though I'm still growing carrots, I've got some carrots in here that are just taking up space in the refrigerator. Not huge, but they're pretty. They're also pretty good. And along with that, I'm still growing green beans, but I have a bag of green beans in the freezer that's taking up space. So I got looking in my ball book, and it turns out that, well, number one, both of these are low acid fruits, so they have to go in the pressure canner. But the green beans, according to the book, processed for 40 minutes for pints. Carrots processed for 45 minutes for pints. So I should have no problem at all doing both of those in one batch, and it might even give me one small batch. I've gone through and boiled my jars, even though I know people say when you're doing pressure canning you don't have to boil the jars. Well, I'm just kind of a fanatic about that, so I boil them anyway. Helps me to get them clean and make sure there's nothing in there that I don't want in there. So I'm going to go ahead and wash up the beans one more time. Stuff them in jars, see how many jars I can fill up with them. And then I'm going to skin these carrots and cut them up into slices and see how many jars of those I can fill up. Then we'll go ahead and put them in the pressure canner over here and pressure can the whole batch of them for 45 minutes. Of course, I will fill the jars, wipe the lids, got my vinegar over there that I use for wiping the lids. I'll be putting fresh lids on them, which I happen to have a few. There's some. And I'll put these in another bowl or another pot and heat them up a little bit, even though they say you don't have to do that anymore. And I'll have to go dig some rings out of the closet and get them in the pressure canner. Standard process. Clean the jars good, fill the jars up with the produce, wipe the rims, get rid of any bubbles that are in there, put the lids on, put the rings on, put them in the pressure canner, bring it up to pressure and let it vent for 10 minutes, and then put they call it a jiggler, but mine never jiggles. It's just this little round thing. Put the jiggler on there, and when it comes up to pressure, I'll pressure can them for 45 minutes. Then I'll let them cool off, take them out, and see what I've got. And I'm sure you've seen that plenty of times before, so I'm not going to try to bore you with every single step. I'll just pop in from time to time to let you know what I'm doing. Well, there we have 6 pints of green beans, 2 pints of carrots. I got rid of the bubbles, left a 1/2 inch of headspace when I filled them up with water, and cleaned the rims, put new lids on them, put the rings on finger tight, and now they just need to go into the pressure canner. And I will confess, I didn't have quite enough carrots to fill up the second jar, so I went out in the garden digging for more carrots. I found a few rather small ones, but they were enough to fill up the jars, so it'll work out. No doubt I'll be pulling more carrots as time goes on, but jars are in there. Let's put the lid on. There it is. Turn that one off, turn that one on high. Now it's just a matter of letting that heat up. Once it starts venting, I'll let it vent for 10 minutes. And then I'll process it or put the jiggler on, then process it for 45 minutes, and we'll be done except for the cooling. Well, there goes the steam. You might be able to see it there. And also the pressure indicator is popped up. So I'm going to go ahead and start the timer for 10 minutes. We let that steam for 10 minutes to make sure that the pathway is clear, and then we'll go on to the next step. Okay, that's 10 minutes of venting. Now we put the jiggler on. Let it come up to 10 pounds of pressure. And then I start playing with the heat on the burner to keep it at 10 pounds of pressure for the next 45 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and get this timer set up. And once we reach the end of the pressure cycle, I'll bring you back. Okay, there we are at 10 pounds of pressure. Time to start the timer. Now I just play with the control of that burner to make sure it stays at 10 pounds of pressure for the next 45 minutes. And that's time. Now we turn this burner off. Move the canner off to another burner, and let it cool for the next 2 or 3 hours. Then I can open it up and see what we got in there. Well, there we have it. 6 pints of green beans, 2 pints of carrots, and so far it looks like they all sealed. I won't know that for certain until tomorrow morning. So I'm going to let them sit overnight to cool off good. Some of them are still bubbling a little bit. And incidentally, pulling those green beans out of the freezer reminded me that I've got 2, possibly 3 freezer bags full of tomatoes still in there. So I may be doing some water bath canning before too long. Until then, I'll see you next time.